with you. Big injunction hearing in court tomorrow as Tennessee continues its battle against the NCAA. And joining us now to discuss that, he is Adam Sparks, our good friend from the Knoxville News Sentinel. Good morning, Adam. How are you?
Not bad. Doing a lot of work that I didn't think I'd be doing at this time of year. I've been reading the last hour on due process of law rather than recruiting. So it's not the February that I thought I would have. I was curious to know, like, if y'all want to get into the law stuff of this or just the nuts and bolts, because most of this weekend, UT fans I've run into have basically just narrowed it down to, like, the injunction hearing, that hearing on Tuesday, like, what needs to happen for Nico to play?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
They're not directly connected, but I understand the sentiment. If it's an injunction hearing, it go 30 minutes, maybe go 3 hours, somewhere in between, on Tuesday in Greenville. I'll be there. I'll try to get in. There's 14 seats for media, so we'll be jostling to get one of those. If the injunction hearing is granted, then NIL rules, for the most part as we know them, are frozen immediately, and probably done forever. If the injunction is denied, then NIL rules can last for at least a few more months till the case is decided. What that means for UT is, if the injunction is granted, the NCAA will probably leave campus not long after that, and there probably is not going to be any major violations. If the injunction is denied, then NCAA can stay as long as they want. They can push the investigation forward, and they just sort of have to, decide if they want to press the issue or not. Now, as far as Nico goes, I think he's gonna play. I don't think his eligibility is going to be in question. I think the more of the penalties that Tennessee needs to worry about right now is like postseason ban and things against the university.
Adam Sparks, Knoxville News Sentinel, our guest. Adam, Tennessee also retained William Burke, a partner at Washington, D.C.-based firm Quinn Emanuel Urquhart and Sullivan, over the weekend. A big-time lawyer who, as you wrote in the Knoxville News Sentinel, is an NCAA killer and in a lot of ways just a big public case killer. What sticks out the most about his resume to you?
It's the type of lawyer that he is. So if you go back to the Jeremy Pruitt case, Tennessee went and got the best NCAA lawyers that money can buy. Mike Glazier and his group, their background was like they had worked on the NCAA side, sort of like NCAA prosecutors, so to speak. So their specialty was all NCAA college sports cases. This guy doesn't deal with NCAA at all, has not in the past at all. This guy has been in like the Mueller probe into Donald Trump. This is a guy that worked in the Bush White House. This is a guy that was a prosecutor that sent Martha Stewart to prison. This is a high-end wheeler and dealer in Washington, D.C. This is a guy that is used to being in front of the Supreme Court. So if you think about those two cases, they're different. The first one, Jeremy Pruitt, Tennessee was trying to work and combat the NCAA, sort of on that level. With the attorney that they hired this time, they're looking at this more from a legal perspective. They're not fighting the NCAA in terms of like NCAA violations. They're fighting the NCAA in terms of what is and isn't legal. So, the end result of Jeremy Pruitt was always going to be an NCAA infractions committee hearing. The end of this case could go as high as the Supreme Court. And so you see the tie-in there between UT's investigation and the Tennessee versus the NCAA in federal court that's going on this week. You can see how they're tied together just based on the type of attorney that Tennessee went and got. And also, I mean, he's like $2,400 an hour.
Wow.
And,
yeah.
How?
I was interested though in the contract. He said he was giving Tennessee a 15% discount.
Oh.
So I think it's after that. So I think maybe he's like $1,900 an hour or something. I think that's a little bit of a power play. I think that's Tennessee also saying, if this does go to a higher court, and if you do come after us for to enforce NIL rules that look like they're not going to stand up as legal, then we have a guy that's going to bury you in the courts, and we're going to sue you. And this is how serious we are that we're going to spend this kind of money on this type of attorney. Keep in mind that Tennessee hired this attorney. We now know it because we reported over the weekend, but they hired this attorney in early December, right before Donde Plowman asked to meet with the NCAA president. I think that timing is important. That's sort of, calling the enemy and saying, we've got an atomic bomb over here to drop on you. Would you like to meet and talk about it? So, and they said, no, we don't want to talk about it. And, I think Tennessee is playing hardball here, and you can see how serious they're taking this.
Adam, you said $2,400 an hour?
An hour.
That's Ramon Foster money right there.
Hey, no, man. Adam, don't listen to him, okay? But, to log an hour, I think, for lawyer terms and fees is 15 minutes. If you call him, that's an hour. That's 15 minutes. Adam, where are they getting this money for this? Can you enlighten me on that first?
Yeah, my wife, full disclosure, is a season ticket holder. Immediately when I got that document, I'm reading through it as quickly as I can. I'm saying things out loud as I see them. And I said, this lawyer is $2,400 an hour. And she said, I guess my season tickets are going up next year. I'd say so. It comes from a lot of different places. The thing is, if you think in terms of poker, Nico, the price for Nico to get him has been as high as reportedly as $8 million. So if you're that far into the game, so to speak, it's be kind of weird to fold at this point. Let's play this out and say they didn't fight back and they got a harsh sanction, and so then they got a postseason ban. Even forget anything individual with Nico, but if they got a postseason ban, they couldn't play in the playoff or a bowl this year. You would probably go back in time and say, what was it worth to fight it to try to get into the postseason? Well, you're already $8 million in, so to speak. The university isn't, but the collective is, and we know those are related. You're already $8 million in. What's another couple million? You just spent a couple $1 million to get past the Jeremy Pruitt fiasco. How much more are you willing to spend? It'll come from a lot of different places. They find ways to maneuver around and get money. They've never had a problem with doing that, but this is serious. He's $2,400 an hour. I think or maybe it's $2,300 an hour. I have to look back at my reporting, but his the low end of his assistants are $800 an hour. So the minimum wage guy that will be working on, or girl that's working on Tennessee's case will be $800 an hour. I think if I was getting paid that per hour, I would just be taking bathroom breaks all the time on the clock. I'll put you on hold until the top of the hour, and then I'll get another hour's worth.
If I'm talking to you, it's not a 2-minute call. I'm getting my entire hour, okay? But the other side of this, Adam, is this for me. What can, at this point, the NCAA enforce when it comes down to NIL rules? We saw what happened with Michigan. What can they enforce now, considering how public everything they've done has been so far?
Yeah, I think it's strategic. They're trying to figure out where to flex their muscle because they need to show that they should exist, and they flex their muscle in the wrong place. They in NIL they had messed up the rules to begin with, so they shouldn't have done it there, and they shouldn't have done it at Tennessee. I think they were lulled into this idea that, hey, we're buddies. This last NCAA case, we worked with Tennessee and all that. Well, that was always a friendship, just based on circumstances. Tennessee was friends with them because they needed to get past the Jeremy Pruitt stuff and not pay his buyout. And I think they were lulled into that sense of security. They came back to Tennessee, and Tennessee was ready for a firefight. And so I think they flexed in the wrong place and with the wrong school. If it looks like NIL rules are going to be struck down eventually. Even the judge said in his order last week that eventually these are going to be, you're probably going to lose. The NCAA is. These violate antitrust laws. So NIL rules could go away on Tuesday. They could go away in 6 months. And really, I think maybe the writing on the wall is there for the NCAA to just sort of figure out something else to do, because they kind of know what the result of this is going to be. if the injunction is not granted in Tennessee's case, then that probably just gives the NCAA a little bit of time to figure this out before they get defeated.
Adam Sparks of the Knoxville News Sentinel joining us this morning on RK Dub. And that was kind of my question, Adam. Like, if Tennessee wins this, you were saying the NCAA probably leaves UT alone. And for them, it's just not a good look. And it's not a good look already by picking on Tennessee for what they're picking on them for. But how far down the road do you see the NCAA being able to last, especially if they do not win this war?
I mean, the problem is there's no good fix about this. I've got a story up on knoxnews.com right now of like playing out the different scenarios that happens here. Are athletes going to be employees? Are they going to be, individual contractors? Are you going to are you going to have NIL with absolutely no rules? How's that going to work? And I find that every college football fan or even media member that I talk to, whatever plan for the next stage of college football that they want, that they're rooting for, I feel like they're going to be opposed to when they actually see it in practice. Because I feel like whatever we end up is going to be like the best of bad ideas. Because they're kind of all bad scenarios. There's all pros and cons to these. And, the NCAA is just trying to figure out how to survive. I do think Greg Sankey's the biggest player in all this. He said publicly last week that he doesn't have this magic plan that he's going to unveil. He's got maybe some good ideas. But the NCAA, I think at some point has to step back and say, we're going to organize things. We're going to run the NCAA tournament and all these other championships. We're going to do that. You guys worry about the rules, you guys being the conferences. And I think that's probably what we're going to.
Yeah, and it makes sense too, right? Because college football is the biggest money generator. That's what's the most watched. And you brought up Greg Sankey, and I feel like he is always a guy we point to that just, he gets things right. And he does things, I feel like, the right way overall. You see, could he do something where, would he have to leave the SEC if he could become the head of whatever takes over for college football? Could he do both? Or, because I see him running something like that.
Yeah, I mean, he could. I think he wants the NCAA to exist. I think sometimes we get this wrong and we think that, Greg Sankey worked in the infraction side of the NCAA. He has been on that side of things as much as he has the side of the SEC. He wants the NCAA to exist and continue. He doesn't want that mess of running all those things and figuring out where the NCAA lacrosse national tournament is going to be. He doesn't want all that. If you separate football, that could work. It's separated already a little bit now with the CFP. But I believe him when he says he doesn't really have a one-fits-all solution. And I don't think really anybody does. I think probably what we're going to go through about 2 or 3 other bad stages before we figure this out. I think in the immediate term for Tennessee, it's just get the NCAA off your campus and just be able to play football and to be able to pay athletes. And, for now, that means getting the injunction granted or getting some language, even if it's denied tomorrow, getting some language in the order from the judge that just reinforces the fact that the NIL rules are going to be unenforceable probably at least months from now.
Adam Sparks, Knoxville News Sentinel, our guest this morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Adam, I know it's hard to ever predict what's going to happen in court in some scenarios, and even more difficult when the NCAA is involved. But what's your gut feeling on the way this injunction goes tomorrow?
It's a coin flip, I think. It really is. I talked to the Attorney General a few days ago, and he admitted that if you don't get if your restraining order is denied, it's plausible that your injunction will also get denied. The Tennessee side of it, the state of Tennessee is arguing that you have to stop these NIL rules right now, this week, or there's going to be irreparable harm done. That these recruits won't know which school to pick because they can't discuss how much the NIL money they're going to get. You got to fix this now as opposed to a few months from now. And, it's really up to the judge whether he thinks this is an immediate concern. He didn't think the restraining order was. There's going to be extra arguments tomorrow of why he needs to shut this down now rather than later. I'll say that the UT side of it and the state of Tennessee side of it celebrated the language in the restraining order as much as they did whether or not it was granted. And I think you'll probably see that in this one. The language in the restraining order was, hey, this is denied, but NCAA, you're probably going to lose down the road. That was a big celebration at UT, that it was like, okay, we're going to win. We just don't know if we're going to win this week or like in 6 months. And, that's sort of a signal to the NCAA that they probably need to back off sooner than later. And so whether it's granted or denied, I think that certainly matters. If it's granted, NIL's probably done, and NCAA is probably leaving UT. But if it's denied, and the language, again, reemphasizes that these violate antitrust rules, NIL rules do, antitrust law, then there's going to be a celebration over that as well.
He is Adam Sparks, covering Tennessee for the Knoxville News Sentinel, at Adam Sparks, doing a terrific job on Twitter as well. Adam, I know it's a busy time, and we've all learned a lot of legal jargon over the last couple of months, so we appreciate a couple minutes this morning. Thank you.
All right, guys, y'all have a good one.
Thanks,
Yes,
Adam.
Thanks, Adam.
There's Adam Sparks with us this morning, saying it is essentially a coin flip on tomorrow's injunction, but Tennessee should feel pretty good regardless.